garbage. Don't send us your newsletters, don't send us clippings or anything like that. We won't use them. And you will have wasted your time gathering them and killed some trees in the process, and we don't want that. So what we do want, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm jumping ahead on the list of key staff members, including position titles. If you're purely a volunteer organization, do you just leave that out and know that?
No, I think they should list it, but state very clearly, volunteer. But tell us, is this a volunteer who's dedicating 20 hours a week? You know, or 40 hours a week? Be specific about, you know, if it's a volunteer who's working in an official staff capacity, we want to know that.
But if they're just volunteering and it's their choice?
If they're just volunteering and they come and go as they please, don't list them. I mean, we're looking for the key people who keep your organization running from day to day. Yeah, yeah, the people who are keeping the organization running from day to day. So we want your verification of the 501c3, tax exempt and public charity status, just one copy. We need a copy of your most recent 990 showing public charity status and public support. We'd like to see your organizational structure, a list of your officers and directors, including position on the board and relevant affiliations and their counties of residence. That's a very important thing. Please do not leave that off. And then the list of key staff members, including position titles. And again, if there are volunteers that are keeping the organization running from day to day, list them, but list that they're volunteers. Financial information, if you could give us 8 copies of the grant request project program budget, that's that Excel file that you'll fill out. 8 copies of the organization's current operating budget, again in that Excel file. And then 8 copies if you're a multi-agency. And then 1 copy of your audited financial statements for the most recently completed year. If you are collaborating with other organizations and you have a need you need to substantiate, and by collaboration, we mean significant collaboration. You know, look back at the Quail Valley RFP if that's the grant you're applying for. But for the Community Enrichment Fund, if it is a true meaningful collaboration and there is some need that you need to substantiate, go ahead and send us a letter. But if it is just a letter saying, we refer people to this organization, they refer people to us, don't bother. You know, we don't want to see that. Chances are, you know, 80% of you refer people back and forth. We know that. We have an incredible nonprofit community, and we know that you're working closely with one another. But if there is something meaningful that adds value and substantiates a need in the community, that's the kind of letter of support that we'd like to see. Okay, any questions about that?
Yeah, I see that you want 1 copy of this and 8 copies of that, so you just want 1 copy of the grant.
1 copy of the grant application. No, 8 copies of the grant application.
You'll see that on page 8. I was just thinking as I was standing here, it doesn't really say anything about the narrative in that section.
Oh, yeah, you're right. This is just the
8.
attachments. I apologize. This is just the attachments. We're going to go over the complete, we'll get to that on page 8. Thank you. And then there's a final tip on page 6, and then page 7 is that form that you'll complete for us. And then on page 8, this answers your question. Sorry, we were both jumping ahead. So we'd like you, when you're writing your narrative, to use 12 point Times New Roman, no less than 1 margin. So the content is yours, the format, we want it 12 point New Roman, Times New Roman, no less than 1 margin. We want 1 original of the complete grant application, including all attachments on page 5. So 1 complete application. Then in addition to that, we want 8 copies of the grant application, including only the grant request, project program budget, and organization's current operating budget. The other attachments listed on page 5 should not be included in the copies. Does that make sense? Go ahead.
Lenora, as far as like the complete grant application, can we put that in the binder with the wires?
No. No.
Binder can put together?
Please do not send us folders or packets or binders or anything like that. We want all of this put together with binder clips and put in a box. Okay? Again, if you send us folders or, put them in special binders or something like that, you've wasted your money and they end up in the trash. I'm still using those folders for the McCabe Foundation, my other job, that I got 10 years ago. And I think it's so wasteful because we simply take them out. We have our own binders that we put them in for the grants committee. So save yourself some time there.
It's just single little double space on the narrative. You say 12.19.
And you can single space it. Yeah, just don't make it like a half-point wedding. Single space is good. And then each grant application should be separated from each other with binder clips. So any, section or attachments, just use binder clips, those black alligator clips. And then one complete original and 8 copies should be submitted in a box, not a binder of the individual folders. Okay? That all make sense to everyone? Great questions.
Back to the organizational information, if you serve more than one county, do you want it just within River County, or do you want an agency on?
On the organization, back in the narrative? No, you need to tell us who you are. I mean, I would say the whole agency, you want to focus on what you've done in Indian River County, but don't obscure the fact that you are a 3-county organization and you serve, multiple counties. Let us know that. That's a very important fact. Okay? Any more questions about that? All right. Maybe.
If you do not have an Indian River County budget information, then are you excluded from the line?
Talk to Carrie about that.
That's a great question.
The question was, if you do not have an Indian River County budget, are you excluded from applying?
I would say no.
We need to discuss that.
Yeah.
You can come from other counties into Indian River County for the service. Does that mean you're multi-county?
No. If you're operating in Indian River County, you're operating in Indian River County. That's what we care about. You might want to include that you're attracting people from other counties, or if it's a strategic decision of your organization that you're specifically going after people from outside of the county to bring them here, you probably want to note that in the narrative as well.
On the audited financials, is that an outside audit that's required?
Yes. Anything else? Okay, so quickly I'll go over the grant process. And as I said, I described who our grant committee is, and I see we have we have 2 members of the grants committee here. Maureen Lee and Robin Williams are 2 wonderful volunteers with the Community Foundation that have both served for 2 years now. They're going into their 2nd year. We have a couple of members who have been on multiple years and maybe bringing one more new member on this year. But it really is a dedicated committee that works very diligently for a very concentrated period of time. And they're working, on your behalf. And I think they would agree with me when I say every application we receive is wonderful. And the toughest job is just figuring out which align most closely with the goals stated in the RFP. So it doesn't mean if you don't get funded that you're not worthy or that you had a bad program. It simply means that we have particular goals that we need to fulfill. So that once you turn in your application, then our work gets started as a committee. And the RFP will guide our discussion. When we're evaluating the grant applications, we look back at that RFP. Here are the stated objectives, and how does this align? So if you're faltering during your writing the application, go back to that RFP. And when you're done, and you have a second set of eyes read it, show them the RFP to make sure that you're hitting all of those high points. They're going to have questions along the way. I think every single grant we've ever funded, we've had to go back to the organization with additional questions. So don't be surprised if you get a phone call saying, we need X, Y, Z, or can you tell us more about this or that. We will likely do site visits And in lieu of a site visit, we have sometimes had organizations, just the executive directors come to us and have a discussion with the grants committee, talk about their programs and let us ask questions back and forth. Always very collegial. Again, we're not watchdogs. We're trying to help the Community Foundation Board of Directors find the best proposals that align with the grant RFP. Once we make the final decisions, and it's going to be different for the different opportunities that we have, you'll likely be invited, depending on the timing, to attend a Community Foundation Board meeting, and the Grants Committee will be there as well, to do an official check presentation. I think that this is a really nice opportunity to celebrate your organization's success in the grant process. You get to meet the members of the Community Foundation Board of Directors and tell them a little bit about your program. It's always a really nice meeting to attend, and I believe it's an actual requirement that you be there. So make sure you look at the RFP to see what it says about attending the Community Foundation Board meeting. And then you have reporting requirements, and we share these back with the Grants Committee. You have a 6-month, depending on the grant, usually it's a 6-month and then it's a final report. And we will have questions along the way. Like I said, we're going to see an organization today, and if we see something not going quite right, we're going to want to help you. Again, it's not a watchdog, but we want to see what we can do to make the grant work. And then finally, you may be asked to participate in lessons learned. What did you learn about going through this grant process? Maybe you hit the ball out of the park with, writing goals and objectives, which always seems to be one of the most difficult parts of writing a grant application. And so maybe we're going to ask you to talk to other prospective applicants about how to write goals and objectives. We've done a little bit of that along the way, but there's always that opportunity to do more as we go through it.
Is the Community Foundation going to share how many applications were received and what categories? It's always interesting to know, it's a very well-attended event, what your fellow nonprofits have.
That's a great thing to consider. I don't know that you've done that before. No. I don't know that we would say the specific applicants, but what you're saying, 10 in education, 10 in, yeah, that's a great idea. Thanks, Mary Ruth. Anything else? Okay, well, I wish you all the best of luck. I look forward to receiving your grant applications, and I know the committee's going to really enjoy reading that. Carrie, do you have anything else?
Remember your evaluation, please.
Oh, evaluations. Please fill out your evaluations.